Actually, I'm sorry. It's not the ninth resolutionary consecutive episode. It's the ninth consecutive year that we have published a resolutionary episode.
All right.
Yeah. 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 2026.
Six.
Nine times. Nine times. I think we need a GIF from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
9 times. 9 times. Yes. Or from the Beatles, number nine.
It's resolutionary number nine.
Every year, millions of attraction visitors lose hours in line instead of making memories.
Since its inception, accesso's virtual queuing has saved more than 4.5 billion, yes, that is billion with a B, minutes of wait time, freeing guests to pack their day with more rides, eats, and excitement.
The result? Happier guests who spend more and a better bottom line for you.
Ready to turn waits into wins? Visit accesso.com/ROI clinic.
The queues are virtual. The results are real.
Welcome to the Attraction Pros podcast, where we discuss the latest trends and challenges facing the attractions industry today.
We chat with some of the top leaders in the field and provide resources that will help develop your career in this great industry.
I am Josh Liebman. I am obsessed with the guest experience and helping attractions make that their top priority for success.
And I'm Matt Heller. I am passionate about organizational effectiveness, leadership development, and employee engagement.
Now sit upright, hold on tight, and get ready for the Attraction Pros podcast. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
It's going resolutionary-tastic. Josh, how are you?
Doing great. Question for you.
Yes.
You alluded to it a little bit.
Okay.
We've been doing this podcast a long time. Right. How many words do you think we've made up?
Oh, well, I know one of them, which is resolutionary. Um, I don't know if thrival was a word before we started using it for the IAPA Thrival Guide. Um, I know we've come up with, well, we've pulled from content that we've gotten in the podcast to come up with concepts like the intersection of the guest and employee experience. Are there other words that I'm missing that we may have made up?
I was actually thinking resolutionary and thrival, and I think thrival really is a word, but
Okay.
nobody uses. So I think we just like really brought it to life. I think because it is like the opposite of survival, or I don't know, the opposite, the extension of it, or whatever
Yeah.
it might be. Resolutionary is definitely one that I think that we've said so many times that now I have to remind myself that it's not a real word and we made it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whenever you type it, it's going to have that little red line underneath it.
Yeah. And then I'll yell at the screen, be like, what do you mean? No.
It's it's a real world,
Yeah.
real word in the
Yeah.
attraction pros vernacular.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Autocorrect may try to change it to revolutionary.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious why you're wondering about words that we may have made up.
Well, as it relates to the word resolutionary, this is now if my math is correct, the ninth consecutive resolutionary episode.
Wow.
Actually, I'm sorry, it's not the ninth resolutionary consecutive episode. It's the ninth consecutive year that we have published a resolutionary episode.
All right.
Yeah. 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 2026.
Six.
Nine times. Nine times. I think we need a GIF from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
9 times. 9 times. Yes. Or from the Beatles, number nine.
It's resolutionary number nine. I was just thinking. Number nine.
That's
Number nine.
that's
Number
going to make my head spin for the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
nine. Number nine. Number nine. Number nine. I'm just going to do that for the next 40 minutes.
Okay. And I will listen to you do that for the next 40 minutes, but I don't know if our listeners will.
They probably won't. So we should probably
No.
give them some more valuable content.
We should. And so when we think of these resolutionary episodes, they are things that we are looking forward to for the next year. I don't know that I would go so far as to say they're a hardcore resolution, but things that are on our minds, things that we want to do to improve our lives or our business moving forward. And then what we also do is take a look at what we said last year and say, hey, how did we do with that? So while it's sort of a loose resolutionary process, there is some accountability in there.
The fact that it is recorded, broadcast, and immortalized into the podcast ether, I don't know if I, yeah, creates that accountability on us. And we sometimes throw some stuff at the industry as well
Yeah,
to hold all of you accountable. And sometimes in the past, we've also incorporated resolutions from the audience as well. So maybe we'll
absolutely.
pick that back up at some point again in the future. I like hearing what people have plans and goals they're setting for the following year. But from an accountability standpoint, before we get into our 2026 resolutions, should we reflect back on the year that has passed?
We should, and we should also say Happy New Year to each other because this is the
Right.
first episode going up, and Happy New Year to all of our listeners.
Happy
As
New Year.
this again is the first episode going up in 2026. So excited to have all of you with us. Thank you for joining us for another year. And now, yes, we should look back so that we can look forward.
Yes. So you made some pretty bold goals for 2025.
I
What
did.
how'd you do on them?
So, do you want me to just share one and we'll go back and forth, or do you want me to just run through all of them?
Let's just run through all of them.
Sounds good. Sounds
Yeah.
good. So we'll go one by one when we do the new ones. So one of my goals last year was to embrace writing more as a creative outlet, and I would give myself probably a D on that if I was going to give myself a letter grade, to be honest and to be
Your English
accountable.
teacher is disappointed in you.
Exactly, exactly. Um, I found I guess the only way to put it is I was putting my creative energy other places. I was putting it into this podcast. I put it into doing videos. I put it into, maybe some things on LinkedIn. And I found that my thought of desire to write, it's there, but maybe I wasn't finding the topics or I wasn't finding the inspiration to sit down and maybe work more on the book than my third book that I'm still working on, that I probably should have. But so yeah, I would say I didn't do so well on that one, but still something that's kind of in my mind. So again, I want to be accountable and say I didn't do so well on that one. That's okay. The next one was to rebuild POC University into a more accessible format, and I absolutely did that. I actually sort of put POC University as it was, not to bed, but I'm not putting as much emphasis on it. But I have brought back the mastermind programs. I ran a mastermind program in the beginning of the year. I've got 3 of them starting right now. Actually, we've just kind of started that process, hoping for another one at the beginning of the year. But that has, I think, refueled my passion of bringing people together and giving them an opportunity to learn and grow in that environment. And I don't know if I shared this before, but the mastermind programs that I started in 2016 actually morphed into my idea of POC University, and now it's morphed back to masterminds. So it's kind of interesting to see it come full circle. But also part of that is emphasizing community, and I think we're doing a really good job of that with Attraction Pros, doing our event at IAPA and trying to keep our community that listens to us engaged, and also bringing people together that there may even be business opportunities between previous guests, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
And then the last one was I was dedicating myself to actively supporting leadership development and embracing bold, innovative ideas that push boundaries, reinforcing my belief in the value of creative risks. And I would absolutely say that I did that in the form of the terrifying leadership experience that we did at IAPA last year. This is, if I can say, is probably going to turn into something beyond that session, working with Scott and Heather. So we are in talks to see what we can do to bring that to either other organizations or other regions in the country as an expanded product, if you will, to really focus on leadership and getting over fears and that type of thing. So that's been really good. And also my partnership with Frank James and Nathan Caldwell with Impact Nation, which is very much in its infancy, but we are looking to kind of like you and I have built this Attraction Pros community, really, really want to focus on, leadership in the attractions industry and bring people together so that they have more and more and more and more opportunities to learn and grow through a community and through interacting with one another.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I've been following the progress of Impact Nation and seeing what you
Thank
guys are
you.
doing. Pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. You'll hear more about that in a little bit also, but
Ooh.
as we go into 26. So how did you do from 25?
So if I were to look at my 2025 goals that we set out in last year's Resolutionary episode, the first one had to do with this progression of my business model. And to kind of recap it a little bit, 2.5 years ago, so around the middle of 2023, I was given an amazing opportunity to be able to refocus on my consulting business. In that I was let go from the job that I had for about 2.5 years prior. I was working for Roller Technology Company. I have a great relationship with them. They just refocused a lot of their strategic initiatives with the business. It was a very amicable separation. I was really thankful to be able to have that opportunity, especially during the pandemic that allowed me to have some stability, especially around the time that my first child was born, which was pretty significant. So when I had that opportunity, I think you've used the phrase "return back to the industry." I think that really held true substantially. Of okay, I am of course I never left the industry, but now I was able to reposition myself within the industry with a lot of consulting services that I had built and developed prior. And the biggest one, the one that had taken off the most, was my guest experience training workshop. That had been building a lot of traction in the years leading up to the pandemic, and then I would say turned into a virtual format during the pandemic and was at substantially lower cost or even free because none of us had any financial means to be able to do anything at that time. But then as the industry emerged from the pandemic, a lot of attractions reached out to me. They said, hey, can you help us with our guest service initiatives? And instead of just kind of I don't know, hanging the shingle and saying, reopen for business. The business never officially shut down, but it was just obviously much, much, much more running in the background for a while. I was able to really examine it and kind of look at the overall offering as well as what would be best for me if now I just had this consulting business as my full-time job and what it would look like from a sustainability standpoint on my end, but also allow for a lot more to be delivered on that end as well. So making it much more beyond the training workshop, which I still am doing training workshops from time to time. I have a lot booked in 2026, almost exclusively with those who are on what I now call my guest experience strategy program. And it took, I think, about a year to a year and a half actually to actually come up with that sort of title for it. It's a guest experience partnership. It's a guest experience. It's something fill in the blank, whatever it was. But the overarching goal is to create loyalty, to turn every first-time visitor into a lifelong loyal advocate. And so the service culture, the hospitality piece is a very big part of that, as well as a lot of processes and infrastructure that I'm helping to assess within the business to be able to bolster those initiatives. So things like really making sure that there is a robust survey program in place and we're segmenting promoters from detractors and we're turning our promoters into loyal guests who are posting 5-star reviews and upgrading to memberships and annual passes, as well as taking those detractors and putting them through a very regimented service recovery process to then make them loyal. So in doing that, the first say year and a half or so, kind of when we reflected on this last year, was that I had just reached a point of stability. So I had thought of this actually in different phases. The first being stability, then growth, then scale. And so my goal for 2025 was growth. And I can check that box and say that the guest experience strategy program picked up a substantial amount of traction in 2025, where the client list really grew from, there were still some kind of one-off workshops peppered in throughout here and there, but I'll say that at IAPA this past year this is the only program I'm offering because of not just because it's good for the business, but also because of the results that we're seeing from it that extend far beyond you fly me in, I speak for 3 hours and fly out, and and that's it. The amount of continual engagement, the amount of additional initiatives that we're able to put in place, the amount that we're able to do from a virtual standpoint, has really led to significant results, both tangible and anecdotal, from increase in survey scores, increase in 5-star reviews, increase in mystery shop scores, taking processes that were already loosely in place and tightening them, so kind of creating this higher degree of intentionality. That's one of the words that has come up regularly in terms of, okay, we now have this intentional focus on the guest experience, which impacts the guest, impacts the employee, it impacts the client as well. And so yes, I can check that box from a standpoint of, yes, it grew, and then I'll pause for now because we're not in our 2026 resolutions, but of course there's more to that to come. The next piece of it, though, also did have to do with dipping my toe into some scalability. And in January of last year, so almost a year to the day from when this episode was published, possibly the exact year, maybe 1 or 2 days off or so, was that I introduced an online course called Service Recovery Hero. It is completely virtual, it is completely self-paced, it is asynchronous, and it is a one-time fee for the entire organization. So shameless plug, servicerecoveryhero.com if you want to bolster your service recovery initiatives. And I was able to introduce that. I was able to get some really good feedback on it, and was able to even really get some very good case studies on it. And while yes, I can check that box and say, okay, that resolution was complete, what was almost comical to actually observe in the way that it was best adopted was that it was mostly those who were on my guest experience strategy program who really, I think, gained the most value because we were regularly able to talk about it. One example of this is Flying Squirrel Trampoline Parks, where 13 of their parks had their GMs go through service recovery summer camp. So summer of 2025, it was a virtual, almost think of it like a book club. Every week for 1 hour, all the GMs would meet on Zoom. There was definitely a campy theme to it. It was actually pretty well done. There were some assignments that the corporate team, the leadership team gave them that involved kind of like making a s'more and like doing some things. And there was a scary story at the end of each one where someone would turn the lights off and there was a flashlight and it was about an angry guest. And they went through that, and they were so engaged with it, and we just had such an amazing result from it. And I was able to join several of those meetings. So yes, they were taking the course digitally, but I was able to join those. And what was nice was I didn't have to deliver the content, but I was more so asking questions as far as how they were implementing a lot of the systems and challenges that they were having. And we talked about 1-star reviews that were being turned into 5-star reviews through a process like the last model that they were able to really gain from the course, and then looking at their recovery toolbox and everything. After that, their assistant general managers then took the program as well, and we had a few meetings with them to be able to talk about the concepts and the way that they're implementing it, and then the way that they are turning it over to their frontline staff, because this very much needs to trickle down from the top down to every single team member within the organization to embrace this culture of service recovery. So yes, like I said, I can check that box. The course itself was delivered. The course is available. The course has gotten a lot of great feedback. And like I said, if you get it and say, hey, I want to do more, and then hey, we can incorporate it into the guest experience strategy program as well. The third one was to have a stronger industry presence, particularly by exhibiting at IAPA Expo 2025. Check that box. That is marked as complete. Even at the time that we recorded last year's episode, I had already submitted my contract and I had paid the deposit. So I was like, all right, we got to do this. My biggest reason for wanting to exhibit at IAPA Expo, actually, there were a lot of reasons, but the biggest one was to really have the dedicated space. I was very fortunate in those couple of rocky years at the expo of being able to access the IAPA member lounge, which is open seating. It's got tables, it's got coffee in there. It's really nice. But it's also first come, first serve, and it's relatively limited seating, as it should be. So people aren't sitting in there, parked in there all day, all week,
Right.
which was the approach that I had to take in 2023 and 2024. And again, while it worked, I knew by the time that I got to the end of the expo in 2024 that I needed to level up if I was very serious about being able to meet with current and prospective clients at IAPA. And that contract was submitted before the end of the expo in 2024. And since this is not on my resolution list for 2026, I can already say that my contract is submitted for 2026 and was submitted weeks before IAPA Expo 2025. So I will be exhibiting again in 2026. And I've looked at what worked really well with the booth, and I've looked at what could make it even better. So I'm looking at just opportunities for improvement as well. So my three goals for 2025 was about growth of the guest experience strategy program, dipping my toe into scalability with the digital course Service Recovery Hero, and stronger industry presence by exhibiting at IAPA Expo.
Excellent. And you checked all those boxes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
Nice. Nice, nice, nice. All right. So we jump then into what we're looking forward to in 2026.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's hear your first one.
All right. My first one, it's sort of an umbrella concept. It's two words, and it's advocate and collaborate.
Okay.
So these are two things I'm already doing, but I want to be more intentional about it, to use your word and many other people's word. More intentional about advocating for people to see experiences and be part of the industry, whether it's being a speaker at IAPA or it's being on a committee or, helping people meet each other. As I said in our IAPA recap episode, one of the phrases that I said most was, "Hey, do you know so and so? Do you know this person? Do you know this person?" So I want to be able to advocate for more people coming together to find opportunities, to get involved, to get connected to others. So I'm going to be more intentional about that this year. And then also the second part is to collaborate. And I think this podcast is a great example of something that I never would have done on my own. But because you and I are collaborating, and there's been such a cool community that has been built around this, and there's a lot of momentum growing and growing and growing to continue moving it forward, that, definitely seeing how that can bring about new opportunities and new ways to, again, advocate for people and interact with people and things of that nature. So the other two things I'm going to share on my list are examples of these, but these are my kind of big picture overarching concepts that I'm really going to have in my mind all throughout 26 and beyond. And honestly, this does go back to something that I said, I think it was on the IAPA recap episode, about myself being and I know it was my words, elder statesman in the industry. I've been around for a long time. I know a lot of people, and I don't say that to boast. It's just a fact that you stay in the same industry for a long time, you're going to meet a lot of people. But I really feel even more than ever that it's my turn and my time and my responsibility to give back. I've always, felt that way in terms of the industry and, going to speak at IAPA or WWA or Ames. Like, some people will say, well, those are volunteer opportunities, right? You don't get paid for that. And that's true. But I love to be able to give back to the industry. I love seeing other people succeed. And while I'm still very involved in my own business and very much pushing, my own initiatives, I do think I want to be, again, more intentional about helping other people reach their goals as well. So I'm going to do that through advocating and collaborating.
Love it. From the advocate standpoint, I've been seeing your posts on social media of encouraging people to submit to speak at IAPA, which is kind of funny because someone could look at that as being, well, you're also submitting to speak at IAPA. There's only limited space, so it's like you're inviting competition in some way, shape, or form. And I think you're doing that very intentionally of saying, hey, if someone else takes a speaking spot that maybe bumped you off of it, I think you would probably see that as a success. you're good. You're going to be
Absolutely.
all right if you have 3 sessions instead of 4, or you're on one less panel or something like that. So that's just great to see. And from the collaborate standpoint, when you talk about when you use the podcast as an example, and I know that we've always talked about the joint accountability with it. You could also think of it as there's a flywheel effect of it as well, of collaborating on something. You talked about this, initiative that you've gone with Frank and Nathan with Impact Nation, and you're probably in those early days, kind of like we were with the podcast, where the flywheel of being this like large, industrial round piece of machinery that's like really hard to get started, right? And it takes a lot of force to do it. But then you also use the word momentum, and the momentum builds upon itself. And the more force that you exert onto it, the more momentum it builds, which means the less force you have to exert onto it as well. And like you said, like as far as the collaboration standpoint with the podcast, that you couldn't have done it on your own. I couldn't have done it on my own. When I think like I even for months I had been thinking like, what could this look like if I were to start a podcast? And there was just a lot of thinking and just a lot of
Mhm.
notepad writing, and that's where it lived. And it only launched when we really got together and were like, okay, let's do this and keep ourselves accountable for it and put in that necessary force that needs to be exerted to build that momentum. And now 430 some odd episodes later, there's a lot of momentum into this. And we're at a point right now where our the episodes that we've got scheduled or recorded already, we're now even a couple of months out at this point. So that momentum comes when you initiate the effort.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and you mentioned, speaking at IAPA, just using that as an example, and far and away, my experiences at IAPA have been by myself. You and I have done a couple of sessions there. I've done a couple with other people, but this year I did 2 sessions with other people and then 2 sessions on my own. And I love doing the sessions on my own. I love, the control that I have of the process. However, just like you were saying with the podcast, I also love the fact that I got to do one with Eric Beard, who is a really good friend of mine, and a good friend of the podcast. It was like, because there were 2 people, now there was 2 people doing the heavy lifting, just like here on the podcast, right? And the other one that I did with Heather and Scott was very much the same way. And not only did it split the workload, but it also increased the perspectives that you see, and the things that you can kind of work off of and build upon and build that momentum. So, yeah, I'm super excited to do even more of that in 26.
Nice. All right, what's number 2? Or should we go back and forth? What do you think?
Let's do one of yours.
Yeah, this is how much we practice this in advance. Okay, so one of my goals for 2025, I talked about that, stability for 2024, that growth for 2025, and then the next step being scale. Well, I've created a buffer step between that, and that is process. And the reason for that is, as it has grown, it has made me realize perhaps where the tipping point is with, if it continues in this current model, it can't grow anymore, or if it does grow more, then it's going to create a negative effect for it. So one of the cool things about IAPA this past year in 2025 was getting to meet not only with prospective clients, but also with current clients as well, and being able to ask them my 2 favorite guest feedback questions. Or in a guest feedback standpoint, it would be, what did you enjoy most about this experience, and what could have made the experience better? So converting that into kind of terms with my clientele of what's working really well with the program. And so I created a whole big list of things, of saying, okay, we've got to push harder on this into 2026, and then what could make the program even better. And that list is just as long, if not longer, and was super interesting to look at, because there were some that I definitely agreed with, and I was like, yeah, I can for sure see that, and some that I was like, okay, I need to be thinking about this more methodically. And I'm very thankful for my clients for opening up about that, because they want to stay continually engaged with the program. They want to see the program grow, and so being able to take that, and my flight back home from IAPA was, I mean, my neurons were firing like crazy of just, okay, here's going to be my core focus into 2026. And it comes around process. And with that process, that is my goal is to make it smoother on my end to help my clients achieve the goals that we've set out and lead to direct results. So I've got a smattering of things on kind of on my list that are going to go into what are those additional processes that I'm putting in place. And process has always been part of the program. Even a year ago, there was a lot that I laid a lot of the groundwork on. And now I realize, okay, it's time to really put my foot on the gas with that.
So when you think about process, and I like the fact that you talked about, making the process for you and that, how it's going to affect your clients, because ultimately, you are, yes, you're working with a lot of people, but you're a solopreneur, if you will. Right? I mean, you're working by yourself, and everything happens because Josh does it. And one of the things I've found is that if I don't have some sort of process, things fall through the cracks, right? And I have, taken a look at some of those processes and thought, well, maybe I could, automate this a little bit more. Maybe I could use some AI for this. Maybe I could, have somebody else do this. But at the end of the day, like, there's a reason why I've gotten into this particular process. Some of it is very manual, but if I didn't do that process, my mind wouldn't be ready for the next piece.
Right.
That makes sense. So
100%.
whatever that process is, I think it's important to have it, to understand it, to continually look at it. But sometimes that process that may on the surface be inefficient might actually be the best thing. So it's good for you to look at that process and also get the feedback from your clients.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So that's my business strategy theme for 2026.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What's your next one?
My next one, you've actually already mentioned. I am resolving, if you will, I am making it my mission to get more people to speak at IAPA.
Nice.
That's an actual bullet point right here. Get more people to speak at IAPA. And that obviously goes into the advocate and collaborate. I do believe that there are so many people out there that have valuable insights, they have valuable information, they have valuable perspectives that are not being tapped into, right? And I hear it all the time. I bet you do as well, because you do a lot of speaking at IAPA and other events like that. And people will say, well, how do you do this? I've thought about like trying to get, on the IAPA stage, but I don't know how to do it. And so that's led to a lot of, one-off Zoom calls and phone calls and meetings and things like that. And I am more than happy to do that. Like I said, I think one of my responsibilities now is to give back to the industry. And if I can help people get on stage, if I can help people find their voice, and if I can help people navigate through the process of submitting a program, then I am all about doing that. I recognize what speaking at IAPA has done for me, being involved with IAPA, what that has done for me in my business and my personal life, that I want other people to have those benefits as well. Now, it might be a little different because I run a consulting company and, my target audience is at IAPA. So when I go to speak, yes, I'm delivering information, but there could be somebody in that audience that says, hey, we need that message at my facility. So that's wonderful. But the reason that I think it's important for people to get up and speak at IAPA is obviously to share their perspectives, share their insights, share their experiences, but also it's a huge confidence builder. A lot of the people that I've spoken to, as they're asking the question, you can tell that they're like, yeah, I think maybe I could, I think, that kind of thing. But like when you get up on stage and you can share your perspectives with people and you get positive feedback from that, that is an incredible confidence builder. And if there's anything that I've seen that many, many leaders need to develop in themselves, and they know it, it's their confidence in certain situations. So I cannot guarantee that you will get selected. This is not a a situation where I'm saying you come to my IAPA program and you're gonna definitely get a spot. Not at all.
Non-refundable $700.
Exactly. Not at all. But I can help you, walk through the process of submitting your application. And by the way, I'm not sure what the actual dates are when we're recording this, but call for presentations might be open now. If not, it will be very, very soon, and will probably be open till sometime in March. Get your application in. I can guarantee this. If you do not submit your program, it will not be selected. So the only way to get your program selected is to get it submitted. So I am putting that out there. Like you said, I've already put a thing out on LinkedIn. I've put it on my newsletter. I'm going to continue to do that. My goal in 2026 is to get more and new people speaking at IAPA so that we can hear those new voices and new perspectives.
All right. So Sean, Max, if you're listening to this, get ready for a wave of some new applicants.
I hope so. I
Yeah.
hope so.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
So, all right. What's yours? What's your second?
My second one, I wrote this down before looking at what both of our resolutions were for last year. So this might be touching on one of your goals for 2025 that you mentioned, but building on the success of the hospitality mentality, which came out in late 2023, some people have asked me, so are you going to write another book? And my first answer is, well, I have to, because my first book was dedicated to my wife and son, and now we also have a daughter as well. So for that reason alone, I need to publish a second book just to be able
Yes, you do.
to give her that honor on the dedication page. Uh, and yes, and there are also more ways of thinking about the process that are beyond the hospitality mentality that maybe is not necessarily a sequel to it, but something that runs parallel to it, takes a little bit of a different direction, and is focused largely in the guest experience strategy realm, and being able to bring in some of the case studies that I have to be able to kind of create the practical framework for building a robust guest experience strategy. So I wrote it down. I wrote down the word framework for next book. So it is not getting published in 2026 because it is not even outlined yet, and so it needs to go through that process. So maybe this is a little bit of an easy resolution, but it's create the framework for the next book.
Okay. And does this mean that if you continue to have children, you're going to continue writing books?
Well, one thing at a time. That's but I guess so, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, and as somebody who is working on another book myself, having that framework is really important. I will say that my process is somewhat similar, where I do have sort of this outline, a framework, things that I definitely want to know or definitely want to say. And then, of course, it's writing it. It's sitting down, at a laptop and typing it out and getting all your thoughts out. And then obviously all the editing and all the things that go along with getting it into a form where someone can read it. But absolutely having that strong framework is really, really critical. So I look forward to reading your second book whenever it comes out.
Thank you. First, you
Yeah.
can look forward to seeing the framework.
Fair enough.
But it's the ideas are percolating right now. It's just living in my head right now. So
That's okay.
yeah.
That's all right.
All right. What's your next one?
My last one is, so I have three. I had advocate and collaborate, get more people to speak at IAPA. And this last one is really about kind of collaboration, but also a little bit of a change, I guess you would say, in my business model. I don't know if we've talked about this specifically in this way. But since I started my business in 2011, the model has always been people make an inquiry, or I, go out and talk to someone about doing business together, and then I go to them. And I love that. That will not change. But I also want to foster more opportunities for people to come to me. So the mastermind is an example of that. The potentially the terrifying leadership experience, whatever that ends up looking like will hopefully be like that. With Frank and Nathan, we've been talking about doing some retreats and things of that nature. So it's not necessarily that people will interact with me only when their company engages with me, but I also want to give people the opportunity, maybe even on their own, if they're not, getting that development from their company, or it's not supported, or it's just not on their company's radar, that they can raise their hand and say, I want some development. I see what Matt's offering, and I want to be part of that. So last year, I actually did two sessions that were outside of what I was doing with the company. So one was in San Antonio, one was in Orlando, and I put the word out there. I put the tickets out on Eventbrite, and I said, here, I'm doing this session, so come on over. They were both super successful, and I loved the opportunity to be able to provide that resource for people, again, who maybe their company isn't engaging with me, but they can have that opportunity. So I guess it's a little bit of a change or kind of refocusing, and maybe there's a framework there of how to get people to be able to raise their hand, and we can work together even if your company is not working with me directly. So that's kind of that resolution, or that thought for next year, is more opportunities for people to raise their hand and get the development they want or need, even if their organization is not engaging with me at that time.
I think that's great. I think that's awesome to see, and especially seeing the success of those events in San Antonio and in Orlando, and I love being able to follow those, and being able to see that, and also knowing that you are targeting the people, not the business. From that standpoint, I think is really impactful, because yes, the business may pay for it, they may not, whatever it might be, but it is about individual leadership development, and that is a skill that if sometime a person leaves an organization and goes somewhere else, that they definitely have it. They have the ownership of
Hmm.
the way that they engage with you. So I think that's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. So do you have another one? A couple more?
I
What's on your list?
I do. Those two were were my biggest ones. The
Yep.
first one definitely being the biggest one. So this one takes a little bit of a left turn here. But I was reflecting on something that we talked about in the IAPA Expo recap episode, and it was something that you had mentioned of talking to people who said, what I don't speak at IAPA, and then adding the word yet. And I remember connecting that to the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I think there's like an ongoing meme that like James Clear makes $1 million every January because it's habits, aligned with resolutions and things like
Exactly.
that. And the first chapter of that book talks about your identity, and the way that you form a habit is by intentionally developing the identity. And if you say like, I am a marathon runner, then that's very different than, well, I'm gonna try to train for a marathon, right?
Yes.
So I was thinking about that, and thinking about something that I've really been trying to do for the last few years, and I haven't gotten that far at it. And it's not related to business. It's not related to anything professional. But I, as of January 2026, Matt, I am a world-renowned pianist.
I kind of thought this might be going that direction. Tell me more.
I have three bullet points, and the third one says piano. So
Okay.
I can't tell you more. I've already said too much. But it's, I want to be able to get back into it. I've got, the keyboard, the very beginner keyboard that my wife got me for my birthday a few years ago. And, I took an online course a few years ago on it, and I definitely know a lot more than I did before taking the course. And there's definitely a lot more to, I think, even qualify as a beginner in this. So I am in the near future going to be building out a new home office setup. So if you've been seeing this background for a while here, if you're watching on YouTube or on video, this is not my home office. I've been telling my father-in-law that I'm going to start taking credit for his hole-in-one plaque that is behind here. That was from June 16th, 1996. But in my new home office, in my new home, I'm going to make sure that there is space for my keyboard to make it easy to access. I had it in my office in Chicago. If you've seen the brick wall background and the horrible lighting in it, and I did actually keep it at my desk, but I never really did that much with it. So if I have to create the identity around it to be able to, like I said, force that effort into the flywheel to make that happen, then that's what I'll have to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, so as a musician myself, I can tell you that making it easy to access is like step one.
Yeah.
Because I have some recording equipment and some instruments down in my basement. And if I had to take them out of the cases and set them up every time that I wanted to play, it would never happen.
Now,
So I've got my electronic drums set up, I've got my keyboard, I've got the guitars on the wall. I have it set up so I go in, I hit one power button and it turns on everything, and I'm ready to go. So make it easy for yourself. Be able to sit down, turn it on, and just go. I think is a great goal. But I also think, and I don't know if your children will ever have musical leanings, but this could be a great thing for you to teach Jacob and June. Some musical abilities, just because I know again what music has done for my life, and it's created different ways of thinking, which I think is really cool, but also, again, collaboration. There's a lot of collaboration when you're working with another group of musicians. But that could just be something that you do with your kids as well. So I love it. I love it.
well, you bring up a couple things too here is that one of the ways to become an expert at something is to kind of take all the information and repackage it and then teach it to a 5-year-old. And I have that exact opportunity to be able to do that. Uh, and it ties into something that Case Lawrence said in our last episode of saying, if you want to learn something, teach it. And I think that can very much go hand in hand as well. So
Absolutely.
watch this
100%.
space. Looking forward to reporting back on this in next year's resolutionary episode if I can go 3 for 3 again.
Maybe you could write a new theme for the podcast.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, you heard it here first.
That's right. That's right. Awesome. Awesome. Well, those are the ones that I have. Did you have another one after piano?
I don't, but I did write down a few industry resolutions.
Okay.
For those listening to be able to kind of take this and package this into your guest experience, your and just overall operations. The first one, inspired by Evan Barnett and the interview that we had with him, he said, "Do the basics really well." And I don't want to expand too much on this, but one of the things that in thinking when I was seeking feedback from clients at IAPA, we've focused very heavily on creating wow moments, creating experiences that go above and beyond. And one of the things that we've had to, in some cases, have almost had to take a little bit of a step back on, not that we hadn't covered it because we had, but really making sure we're doing the basics and doing the basics really well, because then we can build upon the basics and not putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
So do the basics really well in whatever capacity that might be. The basics of guest service, I talk about that, of projecting a friendly attitude and making eye contact and not having your hands in your pockets and not smoking in front of guests, right? So something like that, that is ground level, doing that really well. The second one, and this is a phrase I know everybody's heard here, and that's that guest experience is not a department. And while that might not be necessarily a new resolution, in a lot of the conversations that I've had with people, we talk about certain initiatives and we might hit roadblocks because of certain silos that are in place of, well, we can't do that because marketing takes care of that, or our analyst team doesn't want to do that, or I'm getting delays from our IT team on getting this specific data from our point of sale. And I know you talk a lot about tearing down silos, and I think when it comes to guest experience, it's that it's an initiative that runs through the veins of every department and is not secluded to even just guest-facing departments, but is very much an organization-wide initiative, and that requires a lot of collaboration and advocacy from it. So to take some of yours as well.
Mhm.
And the third one, and it has to do with service recovery. A couple of years ago, I said, make what is it? Empower all frontline team members to to, oh, it was eliminate, let me get my manager.
Yeah.
Kind of the follow-up step from that is about creating your recovery toolbox, being very proactive in identifying if we're eliminating, let me get my manager, if we're empowering frontline team members with tools for service recovery, of putting in place what they're able to provide to a guest without needing to escalate and really getting that down on paper and communicating that directly to the team. So not letting that live in a cloud that doesn't go anywhere, but making it part of the day-to-day standard operating practice.
Love it. Love
Yeah.
it. If there was one thing that I would say to the industry in this format, it's that for 2026 and beyond is don't forget about your people. And I know that sounds simple, or it sounds like duh, but there's so many times when I've talked to people about a certain process, like you're embarking on for your business, or something that's going on, and the people have been sort of the third, fourth, or fifth consideration, and so as you're thinking about efficiency, as you're thinking about safety, as you're thinking about guest experience, as you're thinking about every aspect of your business, don't forget about the people, how they interact with your guests, how they interact with each other. It's something that, because there's so much technology that's available, there's so much innovation that's happening out there, that it can be really easy to get caught up in the next latest greatest thing, the greatest plugin for your software or whatever it happens to be. But your people are the ones that are going to make your business run no matter what. So 2026 and beyond and forever.
Woo-hoo.
Think
As long
about
as
your
people
people.
exist.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Hopefully that stays true for a long time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. So there you go. So I think that kind of wraps up our 2026 resolutionary episode.
I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited for 2026.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Excellent. So you've got a framework, you've got the keyboard coming, you've got process. Very exciting.
Let's do it. Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, if anybody has any resolutions or things that they're focusing on for 2026, we want to hear them. We can help hold accountable. If you post it on social and tag it, we'll reshare it. So it's out there in the open, whether it's
Exactly.
the podcast universe or the LinkedIn universe, whatever it is. We're excited for 2026. We hope you're excited for 2026. Thanks for being on this fun journey with us as like I said, this is our ninth resolutionary episode. And that means that next year, if my math is correct, it'll be the 10th resolutionary episode.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I don't know, I guess we got to figure out what we're going to do for that. So
We do. I mean,
yeah,
we celebrate specific episodes in terms of, the 400th and that kind of thing. And what are we going to do for 10 years?
yeah, 10 years. I mean, we got like 10 years. We got episode 500 coming up in 20, well, not in 26, but in 27. I mean, we should start thinking about it now.
We should. We
Huh.
should. If anybody has any suggestions, we'd love to hear those as well.
We would. We would. All right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Matt. Always a great conversation for everyone
Thank
out
you.
there watching and listening. Like I said, thanks for just being a part of this really exciting journey. And just remember, we are all attraction pros.